Here we are with my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer, Steve Flink, as handsome as always. And we are ready to talk about ladies first this time. We are going to talk about how Swiatek is so much better than everybody else, but maybe Naomi Osaka. And also, how many slams will she be able to win? Will she emulate Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova, or it's a long, long, winding road? Steve Flink, what do you think? Ciao.
That's ciao, Ubaldo. That's one of the most interesting questions you've asked me, because I would, if I were to guess right now, Chris Evert and Martina Navratilova won 18 majors each at total. I think my guess is Iga falls a little bit short of that, but not too far short. Somewhere maybe 14 or 15 would be my guess right now.
Well, I think that she can do it because, as you mentioned, Martina and Chris, they had one strong rival each. I mean,
yeah.
So they won actually 36 altogether.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
if there wasn't one of them, maybe one of the two would have won 24 instead of 18.
Good point. You could argue that. Iga has a couple. I mean, Sabalenka is a serious rival. Rybakina, if she would just stay a little healthier and play better in the majors, is definitely a serious rival. We'll see about Coco Gauff. Not yet. But I think Coco on the other surfaces aside from clay can really give Iga a hard time. So she doesn't have the one great rival, you wouldn't say, but there's a bunch of them there at the top that can give her problems. And also, as you know, Ubaldo, because we discussed this a while back, she wants to be able to do a bit better. She hasn't won the Australian yet. She hasn't won Wimbledon yet. She hasn't been close. She has one U.S. Open. So basically 4 of her 5 majors are at Roland Garros. So surely there'll be at least 3 more, maybe 4 more there. But the question is going to be, can she pick up additional U.S. Open titles? Can she finally win Wimbledon once, twice, 3 times? And can she win in Australia? She hasn't demonstrated that yet.
It is true. Let's say that now she seems to be more confident because she said that she has improved on the serve, and that could help her on grass. At the same time, it's we had Rafa Nadal, who won 14 Roland Garros, but he was able to add 8 other slams, two of each, two of all the others, so she could do the same path, maybe. What I was surprised, to be honest, wasn't so much the fact that she has been so dominant, but her second round versus Osaka, because Osaka, I don't know how you pronounce it in English, and not even in Japanese. I think that I was surprised because she had won 2 slams on hardcourt in Australia, 2 other slams in the United States, but she never performed that well on clay. And then instead, this time she had a match point.
Ubaldo, not only did she have a match point, but she played a spectacular match. It was by far the best women's match of the tournament.
Yeah.
I don't think anything came close to that. Now, Naomi had a set point in the first set, and Iga managed to save it by hitting a ball behind Naomi. It was a very clever shot that she managed to get Osaka to miss a backhand. And then Iga comes back to win the set. But then Osaka won the second set very easily and went up 4-1 in the third with a break point for 5-1, missed a backhand down the line. That was important. Then still, Osaka goes up 5-2 and has love 30 on Iga's serve and didn't manage to break her there. And the last big chance, 5-3 match point, as you mentioned, match point. But Osaka didn't get the first serve in, and Swiatek attacked the second serve, angled it cross court of her backhand, and she came back to win the match. But Osaka couldn't have played much better, Ubaldo. It was a brilliant performance. And as you said, we haven't seen that from her on clay. So that was encouraging for her. And now She goes onto the grass. I think certainly by the U.S. Open, even Wimbledon, she can do very well. By the U.S. Open, she can become a threat. And if she keeps going like this, Ubaldo, and stays motivated, she could become a rivalry could develop between Swiatek and Osaka, where we start seeing them play in almost all of the majors. That's kind of what I'm hoping for, and I'm cautiously optimistic it will happen.
Okay, well, I to be honest, I was very surprised. So I mean, I didn't expect her at all to do such a good match, and then, as you said, that could give her a boost of confidence. I mean,
yes.
Maybe that the only problem could be that she could lose again quickly on grass, and then maybe she may lose, that confidence that she got in Paris. But
yeah, I don't think so. I don't think so, Yubai. I hear you. I completely understand your point, but I'm feeling like she will do okay, at least do okay on the grass. And no matter what happens at Wimbledon, when she gets back on the hard courts over the summer and gears herself up for the U.S. Open, that's where she's going to be at her very best. She loves hard courts. That's where she's won all 4 of those majors, 2 U.S., 2 Australian. So I feel like get her back on the hard courts, and we will see if the Osaka of old has really reemerged, and she just might do it.
Yeah, well, let's say that, of course, being so behind in the ranks, she cannot be seated, So that
right.
The draw becomes very important for her and also for her opponents. I mean, so it depends a lot. I mean, we saw in Paris, she played Swiatek at the second round,
right, and she could be faced with that again at the Open. But if she's able, then think if she has to play a Rybakina, or she plays Iga, or she plays Sabalenka, and she pulls off the victory, then there's no reason she can't go on a big run from there. And they're not going to. None of those players is going to enjoy the idea of seeing her across the net in the second round. None of them.
Okay. Let me close the women's tournament. As you mentioned, by that match, Swiatek Osaka was by far the best, if not the only great match of the tournament. I must anyway underline that nobody could expect Jasmine Paolini to get in the finals in singles and in doubles with a run.
Hold on. Nobody but you. Yeah, I have a feeling that you saw it coming.
No, actually I didn't expect, because until 2 years ago, she was never in the top 44. And then the only thing was that in Australia, I think, or maybe at the US Open, Azarenka beat Paolini in some sort of second round. It was 2 years ago. And she said, I cannot understand how this girl is so behind in the rankings. And she had won that match, but she said that. And probably she had, she had a long, how do you say, view. I know she was, she could see farther than anybody else, because honestly, I didn't expect that, even if I knew that she had a lot of good power shots. I mean, she's very agile. She has some qualities, but not as we saw in the final. The gap with Swiatek was huge, still huge.
Yeah, it was. That was tough on her, Ubaldo, because Swiatek is relentless and she's ruthless. I don't mean that she's mean, but she's ruthless in the sense that she gets a lead. She really goes all out to win as quickly and efficiently as she can. So you saw that little bit of a nice start for the Italian girl to get up 2-1 in the first set, but that was not going to last. And it's no embarrassment, because I think it could have happened to so many other players in the draw. The mere fact that she was in the final was a great achievement. She's only 5'4", Ubaldo. I mean, there's not many women players out there that are that short that can compete at that level. That's what I liked about it. It's nice to see somebody of that height be able to hold her own in the upper levels of women's tennis, and she did that in Paris.
Sure, sure. Well, okay, listen, let's switch to the men's singles. And
what did you think of the men's tournament, Ubaldo? What were just give me your overview, your general thoughts on the men's tournament.
Well, first of all, I want to say, well, I forgot to say that for the Italian tennis, Roland Garros was great because we had in the final a girl in the Paolini in the finals, singles and doubles with Irani, Bolelli and Vavassori in the finals in the men's, Sinner in the semi-final in the men. So to be honest, we had if it was the Olympic Games, we would have won 3 silver medals and 1 bronze medal, which is never happened in 100 years.
Well, Ubaldo, just let me make a comment on that. I wasn't with you in Paris, but I could see in the eye of my mind the smile on your face as all these Italians did so well. You've been waiting for this, and you deserved it. And actually, they're all very appealing personnel. Paolini, she's got a terrific personality, Ubaldo. I mean, that's important too. It's not just their games, but how do they present themselves? And you have a great cast out there. Now, Sinner, one of the classiest guys in tennis.
Okay, so let's go and talk about the men's. Thanks for saying what you're saying. And well, I am not surprised that Alcaraz won the tournament, to be honest. I think he's the best player on clay. What I could be surprised was that both Alcaraz and Sinner, who played the most intriguing semifinals and the most fought semifinals, because if you look at the final, Zverev made only 3 games in the 4th and 5th set, so he was physically much, in troubles and he already was. He could maybe thank a little bit the youth of Alcaraz, who lost the 3rd set, being up 5-2 and making a lot of mistakes. But let's say that the surprise was that both Alcaraz and Sinner came to Paris with no matches behind them, no practice. I mean, almost. Alcaraz 3 tournaments skipped. I mean, Madrid, Monte Carlo, Madrid, and Rome. Sinner without playing any points before getting to Paris, because he didn't play. He retired in Madrid and he didn't play Rome. So let's say that we didn't expect maybe that they could reach the semifinals, but they did, and they were probably the best players.
They were. You summed it up well. In one sense, it was not surprising. In another sense, it was, because of the bad preparation they had. And Sinner, as you know, Ubaldo, not only did he have to deal with the hip injury, but he was sick. So he lost a lot of time in bed, not training properly. He didn't come in. I honestly feel that was one of the factors that cost him the Alcaraz match, was not feeling 100%. I'm not saying there was, and of course, cramping in his hand didn't help either, but I felt like he wasn't quite the same supremely fit, confident Sinner we saw that won the Australian Open, that ended last year so strong, where he beat Djokovic a couple of times, that led to the victory over Djokovic in Australia. That Sinner was not, even though he lost only 1 set on the way to Alcaraz, I felt like he was a little subpar. I actually didn't think it was one of their best matches, Ubaldo. I thought it was strange quality, because first set, Alcaraz can't hold serve. Sinner breaks him twice, lets him back in, breaks him again. He's up 6-2 to love, playing well, but not playing great. Then Alcaraz, so that's 8 out of 10 games. Then Alcaraz wins 8 out of 10 games. He goes up a break in the 3rd set, 2-1. And then Sinner breaks back, and it was in the next game that we saw the trouble with the cramping in his hand. And yet he still managed, after seeing the trainers and getting his legs rubbed as well, played pretty well the rest of that set, so to win it and go up 2-1. I thought that actually, to me, the best tennis was probably the fourth set, because they both were holding serve so easily, and the way you kind of expect them to do. And but suddenly, what I think what cost Sinner the match, and you must have your heart must.
The smash.
Yeah. Yes. Right. But that whole game, he's 30 love. He's 4-5 30 love, and Carlos hit the great topspin lob. Then the smash. It's a short lob. He lets it bounce. Carlos stays over on the backhand corner side, and I think Sinner saw him at the last second, and that affected the way he hit the smash down the line, which went wide. I don't know why he just didn't go ahead and hit it and not worry about it. It was a bad miss, because he could be 40-15 and soon be at 5-all. And the next thing you know, Alcaraz has played a couple of great points and wins the set on a backhand winner, and they're in a fifth set. And I honestly think Sinner was very depressed by that. He started the fifth set badly. Alcaraz got up to a 3-love lead, and Sinner could never recover, Ubaldo. And I thought the end of that fourth set was so crucial. And as you say, the smash more than anything, but just that game from 30 love, I think he lost 3 points on his serve up until then. He was so commanding on his serve and backing it up so well. So was Alcaraz, but I thought we were headed for a tiebreak in that fourth set, and there would have been a lot of pressure on Alcaraz since Sinner led 2-1. Instead, it was very abruptly, the set was over and we're into the fifth. I thought it was a bit of a strange match, because I think they both can play better, to tell you the truth. But Alcaraz, those last 2 sets didn't get broken, and he definitely cut down on his errors and played his best tennis of the match in the fourth and fifth. But Sinner couldn't match it. Sinner, to me, and Ubaldo, you know him much better than I do. Have you ever seen him look so? The handshake was not unsporting; it was very respectful. But he gave me the impression he was very upset with himself, not with Alcaraz. He admires Alcaraz, but he wasn't happy with his own performance. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree completely. And again, I wrote that overhead was so easy shot that you couldn't miss it. And then I would have loved to see the tiebreaker at the end of the fourth set.
Right.
That doesn't mean that I think that Sinner would have won it or not. I have no idea. But it would have changed also the let's say the mindset of Sinner, because Sinner, as you said, was very much frustrated to have lost that set in that way, because as you said, and it is completely exactly, and I know with my short notebook notes that he had lost only 3 points in 4 serves. And then instead of being up 40-15, he loses that 4 points in that game, and that's it. I mean, so anyway.
Ubaldo, the other thing, just I want to comment on, is that, of course, I wonder whether in the back of his mind he also was upset because at Indian Wells he also won a very easy first set, and that's best of 3, I understand. But then Alcaraz turned it around and won the last 2 pretty comfortably. And so that's the second match in a row where he's been up a set. And at this level, these guys, these top players, they're usually so tough to beat from a set up. They have incredible, most of those guys in the top, Ubaldo, have won. They win at least 90% of their matches, some close to 95. When they win the first set. They're great front runners. So Sinner can't be happy that it happened 2 times in a row against a great rival like Carlos. And I think that must have been bothering him as well. What do you think?
Yes, I do agree. Let's say that in Indian Wells there was a rain break.
Yeah.
There was an interruption, so which may have changed a little bit the rhythm. And then, of course, Slam is more important than a Master 1000. So for
but
sure.
Also, Ubaldo, the other thing is, not only does he win the first set, but he has a break at 2. He's up 2-love in the second set. I didn't like the way he played. I didn't think he played very well the rest of the second set. Alcaraz settled down. Alcaraz stopped missing so many easy shots, and he found his range a bit, and he definitely played better, served better. but Sinner had a nice little cushion there with a 2-love lead at the start that got away from him in a hurry.
Yeah, well, Alcaraz, to be a young kid, maybe it is also Juan Carlos Ferrero gives him a good suggestion and tactics. He started to play some not moon balls, but more lifts, more kick, just to play deeper and let's say longer, and to oblige Sinner to to maybe shorten his shots, or to lose a little bit the initiative. So it was clever.
Yeah,
by,
you know what,
by
Ubaldo,
And he did the same thing also with Zverev later on in the final.
That's what I was going to say. I thought he did that even more effectively against Zverev.
Yeah.
Especially standing way back on his returns, the way Medvedev does, way back near the fence, most of the match, and hitting the high trajectory returns, looping returns down the middle. And I don't think that's fun to play against if you're Zverev or you're Sinner. And you're right, it was very smart. That's Alcaraz's best quality to me, Ubaldo, is his flexibility, his ability to change what he's doing and figure out to go from a losing pattern into a winning one by trying something a bit different. And he has so many options at his disposal. That's one of the things that makes him such a great player.
Yeah, he has a lot of variety, a lot of a lot of talents. He can, if he sees the opponent to be far back, then he plays great drop shots. If he comes to the net, he's capable to play good drop volley. If someone attacks him, he's able to play even with just one end a backhand winner. I mean, a cross court. I mean, he did one fantastic, and so we must appreciate because he's really a great talented player. And
Ubaldo, good guy too. Good guy. I like the way he handles himself, just like I like the way Sinner does as well. They're both very good sportsmen. There's no nonsense on the court. There's no gamesmanship. And I think Carlos is a very decent, honorable competitor.
Yeah, and then that during the week we knew that because of Djokovic retirement, we knew that Yannick Sinner would have become number one in the world, the number 29 number one in the world, and the first Italian ever. But he always thought that it was more important to try to win the tournament than to be number one. I mean,
Ubaldo, how many times have we seen that, though? You and I remember we were sitting at Wimbledon 1999. Sampras is beating Agassi and beats him in straight sets. And we knew that Agassi was going to number one the next day. And you said to me, this is very funny. Sampras is beating Agassi, winning the biggest tournament, and Agassi is going to go to number one. A lot of times, I think these players are aware that the ranking is coming out. They know about it. And it must be a little frustrating because then they can still lose that week. And that's, of course, what happened to Sinner. And he should be very proud that he got to one. But I agree with you. He'd trade that in for the title.
Yeah, and then you may remember Kafelnikov, who became number one in the world, and then he lost, I think, 4 weeks in a row. He was he kept losing, and he was number one in the world. And that was and sometimes difficult to explain to those people who are not tennis experts. They don't know exactly how the computer works and things like that. So in a way, it's sounds bad. I mean, I don't like very much what happened with Agassi and Sampras. I don't like very much what happened with Alcaraz and Sinner. But there is nothing you can do. I think that they
no, and you know what, Ubaldo? Alcaraz, let's look at what's happened to him. He had won like 5 or 6 titles by Wimbledon last year. He had an incredible first half. He wins Wimbledon over Djokovic. Nothing the rest of the year. Almost won Cincinnati, and Djokovic beat him. He lost to Medvedev in the semis of the Open. No more titles. And then he goes all the way to Indian Wells, and he wins Indian Wells. So that's part of the problem, is that if he kept up the kind of pace he had the first half of last year, then he'd be number one right now. But his record has been a bit inconsistent. But if he starts to put on more time, then, you know, it could be very close with Sinner and Alcaraz for number one. They could go back and forth a few times this year.
Yeah, I think so too. But I wonder, when we talk about number one and slam winners, if I were Marcelo Rios, who was number one in the world but never won a slam, I would prefer to be somebody like Stan Wawrinka, who won 3 slams and has never been number one, but everyone will always remember that he won 3 slams and beating sometimes Djokovic, sometimes another player. Nadal.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I agree with you totally, and I think any of the players would too. It's unusual. Ideally, normally you wouldn't be number one without major titles. It shouldn't happen, and you kind of owe it to yourself to prove that it's valid, you know, to go out and get the big titles and be number one. But I agree with you, and Wawrinka would tell you that he's more than happy to have those, and not only 3 majors, but one Australian, 1 French, 1 US. He won 3 of the 4.
Yeah, correct. Listen, what about what happened to Novak Djokovic? Because, I mean, while between the ladies' tournament, we say that Osaka Swiatek was by far the best match, if not the only one. Well, Djokovic played 2 unbelievable matches, one with Musetti, 5 sets, and another one with Cerundo, another 5 sets. And both times he finished in the morning. I mean, because the scheduling was, you know, probably difficult because of the rain and because they had only 2 courts with the roof. Still, once Djokovic started to play at 10:40 at night, and he went on for hours and 10 minutes, and then the other time 4 hours and 29 minutes. So I mean,
they were both. Yeah, they both were
lucky, to be honest.
Both in the 4.5 hour range. I think one was 4:29, the other 4:39. But yes, you're right. It was a strange tournament for me. You're right. They were 2 of the most exhilarating matches of the tournament. They were very emotionally rewarding to him because he hasn't had a good year. And I think he was really happy that both times he came back from 2 sets to 1 down to win. And in the case of Musetti, Novak had a set point in the tiebreak in the second set. He also was up 4-1 in the second. And Musetti took that set away from him and won the third pretty convincingly before Djokovic, from 2-all in the fourth, he lost 1 more game. He won 6-love in the fifth. Great finish against Musetti. His best tennis was was that last set and a half. Then kind of similar against Cerundolo. He wins the first set, and then he started to have the knee trouble early in the second. He lost that set 7-5, lost the third, and went down 4-2 in the fourth, came back and won at 7-5 and won in 5. So yes, he had to have been very pleased, but we knew something was wrong with the trainers coming out, working on his knee. It was clear that during that match, something was wrong. And he said later that the painkillers were what saved him. That's why he could play pain-free in the last set and a half against Cerundolo. And that made a big difference. And he was able to move properly, and had to have been very disappointing to get the results, the MRI, to do the test the next day and find out about this knee injury, you know, and I think that, and I think he was very smart to do the surgery and get right on with it, but it's highly unlikely that we'll see him at Wimbledon. I hope he's ready for the Olympics. It was a tough break, though, because I think those were confidence increasing matches. Those were the kind of matches he needed to start winning. Yeah. And they were sort of trademark Djokovic victories. And he, like Alcaraz, is a fantastic 5-set player, but it didn't end the way he wanted.
No, I honestly, if he had played at least one of those 2 matches in the afternoon, it would have been different, probably.
Well, no, I think the second wasn't the second. I think the second one was Ubaldo. The match with Musetti was, you're right, started at 10:40 in the evening. They went past 3 a.m. to about 3:07. But the Cerundolo match was late in the day, maybe going into the evening.
Yeah.
So not as bad. But I think the big thing, Ubaldo, was, to me, the big thing was that he had so little time to recover from the Musetti match before he played Cerundolo. It was about 37 hours. It was not the normal recovery. It wasn't even a full 2 days. And you're recovering from a 4.5-hour match. And that wasn't easy either. And the other thing we should say, Ubaldo, is he did mention that the knee had been a bit of an issue for a few weeks, but he didn't think it was serious. He knew that there was something going on there, but he thought it was very manageable. He didn't look at it as a serious injury. So it was probably a risk already that he couldn't really understand. He didn't really understand the extent of it, but he knew that the knee was an issue. He did mention that.
Yeah, then while in the past he always tried to not go through surgeries, this time instead he changed his mind because he wanted to be ready for at least the Olympics. And then he also said that he didn't think it would have been a good idea to try grass and then go back to the clay to play the Olympics. So I don't expect to see him at Wimbledon, to be honest. And then you never know.
You say you don't expect to see Djokovic?
Yeah, I don't expect.
No, I don't either. I don't either. And I think that
I don't expect to see Nadal.
Right, but Djokovic's case, I think I read some comments from the surgeon, and he thought it would be very fast. He wasn't putting it past Djokovic, but it was like you have to keep monitoring the knee every day, see how much progress you're making, but be awfully quick. And the last thing he wants to do, Ubaldo, is re-injure it at Wimbledon and be gone for the rest of the year. If you just would wait a little longer, come back for the Olympics, I think it's going to be a lot easier, a lot better chance of recovery.
Listen, and what else because I think the Musetti played really well versus Djokovic. I'm not saying that because he's Italian, but
Ubaldo,
I like to see Musetti because he is talented. Then sometimes he plays.
No, Ubaldo, did you hear that? You saw that Djokovic praised him to the skies for it. He thought it was the best tennis he'd ever seen from Musetti. I agree. You remember 3 years ago when he had Djokovic down 2-0, and
of course,
but he didn't play nearly as well as he did this time. That day, I thought it was Djokovic had chances in those first 2 sets, which he lost in tiebreakers, particularly the first set. And he kind of let it get away. And I didn't think Musetti played anything close to the level he produced this time. And they were playing, and it was cool conditions, and Djokovic, it was so hard for him to finish off those points. As he said, that Musetti would hit shots coming out of the corners. It was like, what do I do? I'm hitting every shot in the book, and they're all coming back, and Musetti is so fast. And he covered up his backhand, which isn't a great shot, but he was keeping it in play. And the forehand was hitting it at some very high speeds and accuracy too. That was a tremendous performance.
Yeah, it was really great. And then what else? We have seen. I mean, this Zverev, who for the second time he reached the final. Okay, he said, and he was honest to say that while with Thiem at the U.S. Open, it was him who threw away a little bit the match because he was up 2-0 against Thiem.
Right.
This time, in a way, he was. I mean, he had no more energies in the 4th and 5th set, probably because of the intensity of Alcaraz. And one more thing I want to say. Alcaraz won this tournament without being at his best.
Yes.
He made 58 unforced errors against Sinner, and he made another 45 or something like that against Zverev. So
yeah,
it's true that it takes a lot of risk. So when you try always to hit winners, it's quite normal that you make also a lot of mistakes, but he made really many. I mean, more than a winner normally takes.
Yeah, Ubaldo, let's talk a little bit more about that final. I mean, look, as we were alluding to earlier, there was definitely Zverev was a bit surprised by Alcaraz's return to serve positioning in the beginning. I thought that threw him off. And that's why he lost his serve 3 times in the first set. Then Zverev adjusted beautifully in the second set, and he really found his range off the forehand. He was hitting it at blinding speeds, and he was not making errors anymore. And he was sort of pushing Alcaraz around a bit in the second set. I thought he played very well and win it comfortably 6-2. And then, as you alluded to, Alcaraz is 5-2 in the third, and he actually had 15-30 on Zverev's serve at 5-2. I thought he might even break him again. Zverev holds and then wins. He won those 5 games in a row. Here's and partially through, as you mentioned, Carlos's errors, but also Zverev played very well in that stretch and was very disciplined. And at that point, he was serving well. What I didn't understand was the start of the fourth set, Ubaldo. I don't think he was that tired in the fourth. I don't know what he said about it, but he only won 5 points in the first 4 games of the fourth set. Carlos was 4-love up in about 15 minutes. It shouldn't have happened because Zverev's in a great position, 2-1 up. So that set he kind of threw away. And then the beginning of the fifth set, Ubaldo, Zverev had the advantage of serving first in the fifth, and he held the first time, but at 1-1, he played that awful game where he missed the backhand volley down the line, the court's wide open. Then he tried to serve volley and put the forehand volley in the net, then a double fault, and then he made a backhand unforced error. He really gave that game away to Carlos. So he's down.
Steve, I know you since almost half a century, but how can you remember all the points like that?
How do I remember them?
How do you remember all these points? So, I mean, every game
because
you remember
you know me, that's
the second point, the third point, the fourth point. I mean,
I know well. That's just the way my crazy mind works, and you know that about me. But Ubaldo, then of course, what did you think about the next game when Alcaraz was down love 40, serving at 2-1? He won the next point, and then there's an apparent double fault going down the tee. The umpire, the linesman calls it wide. But the umpire comes down, overrules, and Alcaraz came all the way back to hold. How important do you think that was?
Well, it was, for sure it was, because psychologically destroyed Zverev, because Zverev was bending himself on his knees, saying, you know, he's out, come on, you must believe me, you must trust me. And then, of course, when I mean, he said afterwards when he came in the press conference, to be 2-2 in the fifth instead of being 1-3, it makes a huge difference. But he also said that he couldn't feel any more strong legs at the end of the match. So admitting that and confessing that, probably. He says that even if he had gone 2-2, okay, it would have been a different, also in terms of, you know, psychological for him and also for Alcaraz probably. But it is true that Alcaraz ended up dominating after that. So
Ubaldo, there was that one more chance though too. Then Zverev had break point to get back to 3-3, and Carlos played a really smart point. He served and volleyed, and you know, there wasn't much he could do about that. And after Carlos held there for 4-2, it was over. But yeah, listen, I have to say, watching it, I didn't feel like Zverev was as fatigued as he said he was, but I take his word for it, and it's understandable because think back, Ubaldo. You know, he managed to beat Nadal in the first round in straight sets, which was a good effort. By the time he gets to the third round, he beat David Goffin easily too. Then 5 sets with Greek score, where he's down 2 breaks in the fifth set, 4-1, 2 breaks down, and he comes back to win that. Then he has to play Holger Rune. That's also 5 sets where he's down 2-1, and they go to a tie break in the fourth, and he wins that. So those were very taxing matches. And then after, he did manage to beat de Minaur in straight sets, and he beat Rune in 4. So that was a little better. But I guess all of the hard work, don't you think that's part of it? All of those hard matches along the way caught up with him in the final. That seems to be what he's saying.
Yeah, probably that is the. I mean, to win a slam, you must try to arrive at the end with some freshness. I mean, you cannot fight 5 matches all marathons, and then
right.
I mean, they're all human. Even if he was surprised in a way, because he said, I never had the physical problem, maybe I never had cramps in my life. So he said, maybe I should look at my future preparation with my physio and so on, Zverev said, you know, because apparently must have heard, I mean, must have felt that he wasn't this best level physically. What else? I saw, well, you know, Alcaraz, in my opinion, talking about the comparison between Alcaraz and Sinner. Sinner got to the semifinals without having really hard matches, because he lost only one set to Mute,
Right,
which was
right.
he was down 5-love with 3 breaks, but he couldn't understand exactly that Mute was left-hander and he was counter-footed all the time. But then when he started to play better, he won easily, the second, third, and fourth set especially. While Alcaraz instead had a tough draw, because Alcaraz had to beat Korda, then Auger-Aliassime, then Tsitsipas. So he got to the semifinals more prepared.
Yeah, but Ubaldo, you're right. I agree with you. But he only lost one set too. So you know, he conserved energy before the semifinals. I think it was for him it was a good draw, Ubaldo. For him, he loves to play Tsitsipas. He owns Tsitsipas. He never loses to him. I think it's 6-0 now. I mean, so that was perfect. He beat him in the quarters last year too. He liked all those matchups. I mean, Korda can be difficult for him. Korda once beat him on clay a few years ago, but Korda right now is not. It was a comfortable enough match. One tight set with him, just the way he had with Tsitsipas, a tiebreaker. So I feel like Carlos liked his draw and picked up confidence along the way. And I think the fact that he had only been battling an arm injury versus Sinner with the hip and being sick, maybe Sinner had a little bit more to deal with, a little bit more to overcome than Carlos, who played with that big sleeve again on his right arm. How he managed to do that, I don't know. Didn't it look uncomfortable to you?
No.
No?
I don't think he was uncomfortable. He was eating.
Well, no, it wouldn't, but doesn't it look that way? He didn't play like he was uncomfortable. I'm saying it looks like it's such a big sleeve.
Yeah, but at the same time, it reminded me a little bit Milos Raonic, who was always.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
But I don't know. Anyway, when he played the first 2 matches, he came to the press conference and said, my team tells me that I should eat my forehand 100%, but I don't feel like doing it more than 80%. And then at the end, he didn't seem to fear any problem, you know. And
he said he did make the comment that when he got to the Sinner match, he decided that's when he was going to hit it 100%. He didn't care what he felt; he was going to do it then. So bad luck for Sinner.
Yeah. Anyway, look, I think we went through more or less. I was a bit disappointed maybe by Rune, who is ups and downs. Sometimes with Zverev, he was up 2-1.
Yeah.
Then he lost the 4th set in the tiebreaker.
Right.
And then he disappeared in the 5th set. I don't know.
Well, he disappeared. You're right, but I thought watching it, I thought Zverev played a pretty high level in the 5th too. And actually, what I'm encouraged by, Ubaldo, is we're not seeing Rune fall apart. He won a 5-set match early in the tournament. He won it. He came from 5-love down in the tiebreak. Great recovery in the 5th set tiebreak, and then he played 4 really tough sets against Zverev. He faded a little in the 5th, but I feel like he's getting fitter. I don't think a year ago we would have seen him hang in there so long in best of 5-set matches. So to me, there's some progress for him.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned also the fight that he had with Cobolli. I mean, Cobolli played really well, and also Arnaldi with Tsitsipas He had won the first set, and he had the chance to win the second set. So the Italians, I must say, they did pretty well. I mean, five in the top 50, and they are all 22 or 23 years old. So I mean,
yeah, and Ubaldo Caboli, that was kind of unlucky. He's serving at 5-love at 5-0 on that tiebreak, and he hit a very good serve. And Rune hit a crazy backhand return winner. I mean, wouldn't make it 1 out of 10 times, and he made the shot. They changed ends, and the whole tiebreaker changed around. That was a little unlucky for Caboli. He could easily have won that match.
Yeah, and then anyway, it's a young kid, so I must say that the Italian tennis has never been more brilliant than now. I mean, to be honest.
Are you taking any of the credit for it?
No, nothing to do with me. But look, Steve, I think I kept you already longer than you expected, and I expected. I know that you, when we are talking together, we would never finish if it was for us. If there wasn't a problem of translating what we're saying in Italian for the Italian website, and we could put just this in the English website, ubitennis.net, then we would go on forever, because we both love this sport.
We do. We do. You're right. We do.
Yeah, and we really, the passion, the enthusiasm that we have for tennis is also the enthusiasm and the passion that we have for journalism and media coverage. So we all.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed this discussion as always, Ubaldo. It was a fun tournament, and I liked recapping it with you.
Okay, so thanks a lot to Steve Flink, my old friend, colleague, and Hall of Famer. See you next. We will talk about Wimbledon and who is going to win that. Just one quick prediction: Alcaraz or Sinner? They play. I don't give you other options because Djokovic is not going to be there.
Right.
No,
I'm leaning to Alcaraz right now. But if Sinner plays him, it'll be another. I think it'll be another 5-set match if they meet in the final of Wimbledon.
Okay, well, they should be eventually in the final because one will be seeded 1, the other one's seeded 2. They cannot play earlier. Okay, thanks a lot to Steve Flink.
My point is, if they both get there, I think they'll play a higher level match than they did in Paris, and I think Sinner will be very determined after losing in Indian Wells in Paris. That was one of the reasons why he might win. But right now, because of Alcaraz's confidence coming off Roland Garros, I give him the slight edge.
Okay, we'll see. I think you are right, but I hope you are wrong. Bye-bye, Steve. Ciao, thanks.
Ciao, Ubaldo.